Buck Showalter sitting down here, the Orioles manager. Hi, Buck. You can, Buck, do you need makeup?
What do you think?
Do you want makeup?
No.
Okay, all right.
I'm good. How we doing?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, you just missed Pedro Martinez.
No, I've been down. That's why I was downstairs talking to him.
Oh, you were?
We have his brother, Ramon, is helping us with our pitchers here, and Jimenez.
Pedro is great. Get closer to the mic there. If you
Unbelievable.
can. Yeah. What if I say Pedro? What's the one moment you remember?
I just think change up.
Yeah.
That was one of those pitches. You're supposed to be able to hit pitches when you know it's coming. You know it's coming, you still couldn't hit it.
He said that he would take Schilling over him in a big game.
I would too.
You would?
I had Schilling in Arizona. Schilling was the best one game to win. That's who I got out there. Of course, I didn't have Pedro, so I shouldn't say that. Schilling, one guy.
But you had Randy Johnson. You take Schilling over Randy? One game?
One game.
Yeah.
Because you can't sit there and load up 9 right-handed hitters on Schilling or 9 left-handed hitters.
What if Randy Johnson was here right now? Would you say that you'd still take Schilling?
Matter of fact, I would.
You would?
I'm a little faster. Well, not now. I used to be faster.
Randy's can be kind of scary to be around, right? Especially on game day.
Lou Piniella, I called him when we signed him, and I said, Lou, tell me about Randy. He said, well, you're going to like him every 5th day.
Tough to be around the other days?
No, I just used to, in spring training, just come in on his work day and his throw day. The other 3, we used to give Randy his own signals. Just tell us whether you're going to bunt or hit and run or take. And I was trying to get him to give the signals because sometimes we'd put on bunt and he'd hit. We'd put on hit and run, he'd bunt. And we'd put on take and he'd swing. So I said, let's just do it this way. Let's just you give the signals to us so we know what you're going to do.
He's the official introduction. Buck Showalter, the Orioles manager, joining us in studio. The best pitching performance you ever saw?
Wow. I was there for Abbott's no-hitter when he really didn't have diddly squat. It was just one of those days when Cleveland had that good hitting team. It was one of those days sitting in a dugout where you just knew the baseball gods, and it was just meant to be. And we're trying, the catcher kept looking at me going, he really doesn't have anything. I said, I know, but it just happens. That's where it makes you realize you really don't have much control over it. Sometimes the baseball guys just say this is going to happen. Get out of the way. But David Cone in the 5th game against Seattle, boy, I've had some really good ones. Randy had a lot of good ones. I thought Schilling in Game 7, I wasn't there for it, obviously, but with all the stuff that was going on at the time, under pressure, Schilling was special. I tell you, he was special.
Did you ever have a player sick out because of a pitcher? Or that you thought didn't want to be in the lineup?
Oh, of course. But you never exposed them. You never exposed them to their teammates and everything. I had a guy that was ducking Randy. We had 9 right-handed hitters that we could put in there, and one of the right-handers bailed without mentioning names. At the Kingdom, and he sent the trainer to me. Said, "Hey, trainer says so-and-so said he can't play tonight. So he's got a stiff neck or something." There were 3 things back then you couldn't document: was lower back, stiff neck. I slept on it wrong. So I said, "That's fine, but you have him come tell me." So now here comes the assistant trainer telling me the same thing. I said, no, you have him come tell me. So finally he came and told me in the locker room about half an hour before the game. So I went out in the middle of the locker room. This meant that one of the left-handed hitters was going to have to take on the big unit. So I go, boys, here it is. So-and-so's not going to be able to post up tonight. So one of you left-handers is going to have to take him on. And Mattingly hit 300 off of him. That was unusual. But so guys were kind of ducking back in their lockers like this. And Deion James put his hand up and said, Buck, I'll take this the big unicorn. He said, but when that soft toss and finesse change-up left-handers out there about a week from now, I want those at bats instead of him. I said, Deion, you got it. And he played left field and I think struck out 5 times.
But you got to give him credit.
Oh, Donnie used to come in the night before. He goes, Buck, I'm playing tomorrow against Randy. I go, yeah, you're hitting 300. He goes, I said, why? He says, because I got to spend the whole night in front of the mirror, keep my shoulder in, keep my shoulder in, keep my shoulder in. I go, okay. So the next day, his second pitch is right at his coconut. And he came by me. He said, Buck, all that preparation last night? Gone.
But you had that moment when he buzzed the tower with Kruk in the All-Star game. And I think every hitter, certainly every left-handed hitter, said, "Oh my God,
I saw Randy. I was managing New York Penn League when Randy was in Jamestown with the Expos. You think he was wild his first 3 or 4 years? You should have seen him in Jamestown. I was walking around with a lethal weapon. It wasn't. But once a lot of people forget how wild he was for a while. I remember Scott Bradley was catching him one time, and I'd play with Scotty before he got traded. And I was running out to coach third base, and he'd just pitched first inning. He goes, "Buck." I go, "What?" He goes, "Game over." I go, "What?" He goes, "Game's over." And 8 innings later, he was right.
So he just knew that.
When he was throwing around the plate. What people say, what's so different? You can't simulate his release point. 6'9", his stride point. All right, we're going to work on facing Randy Johnson today. How do you present that to the players? The release point, the angle of descent. If you're throwing a ball here, that's why they're always looking for tall pitchers. And the bat's moving here, you got a better chance to square it up. But if the ball's coming in this way and you're swinging this way, it's a lot different. Well, his was coming in this way, and your chance
Pretty steep angle.
Then all of a sudden he had this thing called a slider.
Yeah, that's not fair.
No.
What's like when Nolan Ryan got a changeup?
Yeah, supposedly a changeup.
Yeah, but guys, did you? They were collecting baseballs from Nolan Ryan, right? That was common practice. That he was.
No, I wouldn't say that. I did. I was in Texas one night with him. It's just like story. I feel like an old guy telling old stories, but I am an old guy telling stories. But Nolan, we were in Texas. Durwood Merrill from Hooks, Texas, was behind the plate.
Yeah.
And he had that really good changeup that night. And I was collecting balls and kind of putting them behind me. And about the third inning, Durwood called me out, and he said, "Young man," it was my first year managing. He says, "If you think I'm going to check Nolan Ryan in Arlington, Texas, and being from Hooks, Texas," he told me where I could stick those balls.
Wow.
And I said, "You want to do it in New York and Yankee Stadium? You go right ahead, but not here tonight, young man."
We're talking to Buck Showalter, the Orioles manager, joining us, New York City Man Cave. How would you describe what Baltimore's been like the last couple of weeks?
Well, we haven't really been there much. I think we played like 17 of our first 23 games, 24 games, something like that on the road. We flew back last night. I'm sorry, night before last from Tampa. Got on a train last night and came here. It's been a challenge, Dan, in a lot of ways. And, I'm not going to try to put myself somewhere about something I don't know, but the players, it's certainly on everybody's mind and in their thoughts. I can tell you, I've been proud of the way they've handled it, but there's a lot more important things going on in Baltimore than baseball.
Can you manage a game and not think about what's outside that stadium?
Well, when there's nobody in the stadium, that was really strange.
Yeah.
I thought I was back in the instructional league, and I could just yell down to the bullpen. You can hear the phone ring. I tell you what, did you see how quick the 4 games went?
Yes. It's like 20 minutes faster.
Maybe we've identified the problem here.
It's the fans.
It's DJ Kitty and all the stuff that no, it's not the fans. It's just the pace.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was strange. I'm sure they'll look at it, but our ownership, Mr. Angelos was very intent on. He asked me 2 questions that morning. He says, "What's best for the city of Baltimore, and what's the safest mode for our fans?" And he didn't want to take away that many security people from around the city for the ballpark. And trust me, he took a pretty good financial bath.
Yeah.
But not once did money come up. I was very proud of our organization, and now I'm hoping we can be a part of it when we get back. Of trying to, certain things, Dan, you don't want to be normal anymore. You want to learn from some things.
But you couldn't even leave the ballpark that one night, right? That the fans were told not to leave?
Well, they not when the game was over, they were free to go. It was during the game. I think it was an extra inning game. They just said, if the game ends this inning, whatever, stay here. But at no point was the game over and they couldn't leave.
And it was bizarre to watch the game when there were no fans there. And even I didn't know what it'd be like. We talked to Gary Thorne, the Orioles play-by-play voice, and I don't even know if
did you hear the Masters thing he did? The Masters voice he did for an inning?
No.
He did the game because everything was so quiet in a Masters voice. Now, Gary's got a great voice, and it's hard to tone that thing down. You got to pull it up. It's pretty funny.
Well, you probably could have heard him.
Oh, you could hear it. With that voice. The players were talking about out in the on-deck circle and in the batter's box, you could hear everything. But, there were some fans in a hotel across the street that were doing the O-R-I-O-L-E.
Yeah.
You could hear everything. Delman hit third. Delman Young hit third instead of fourth. It was pretty funny because Adam was hitting fourth instead of third. And over there, they thought it was Adam Jones in the batter's box in the third. Of course, Delman had a pretty funny line that only he could say. But It brought some levity to the moment that was a very serious time.
Is that the strangest atmosphere you've had for a game?
It's right there. I would think so. But what's funny is, I bet you wouldn't have any. What hit me, you wouldn't have any altercations like we've had if nobody was in. What drives the altercations? Like there was no, even down in Tampa, it was like a high school football game. Half of it was Orioles, half of it was Tampa Bay. There was such a great tenor to the game. It was about baseball. It was about just the competition between the lines. There was no meanness. And I was thinking during that game with nobody in the stands, the thought of someone getting mad by being hit by a curveball in a 0-2 count just wouldn't happen. I don't know. So we'll see.
You're going deep on me here.
I know. I got you thinking.
Yeah, and you normally don't, and that's why I'm like your players. You normally
can't reach you.
You normally can't, you can't get in my head there. Well, it's good to see you.
You too.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming by.
Ravens had a good draft, didn't we?
So you're a Ravens fan?
Oh yeah, I got to become a fan of them.
Well,
Harbaugh and Ozzie Newsome.
They usually have a great draft.
Usually because they have to.
They're pretty good.
I'm really fascinated by the draft process in NFL compared to MLB. It's completely different.
What would be tougher, be a GM in baseball or GM in football?
I don't know. It's one of those things I don't know enough about, so I'm not going to weigh in. GM has really evolved in baseball. It's a different cat. I mean, how many of the guys in big leagues were Gene Michael or guys that have played in the big leagues for a long time or actually played the game? It's a different, not that it's wrong, it's just a different criteria.
I'm glad that they're being recognized for their value and should give Hall of Fame consideration to some of these great GMs.
I agree.
Pat Gillick. I mean, there are guys who were Bob Housen back with the Reds in the 70s. I mean, they helped be an architect here.
You know why they made so many deals, Dan? Because they were fair. They weren't trying to have a lopsided trade every time. They knew what value was for value, and that's why people were willing to trade with them. All these guys are always trying to, bend somebody over to make a lopsided trade. If you're willing to give up quality for quality, you're going to be people are going to want to trade with you.
He's Buck Showalter, the Orioles manager. Good to see you, Buck. Thank you.